Welcome back to day 8. Let's start with a recap of day 7 as to what we did. I did a comparison between, let's say, Vue and React to get started because it's always good to know what's there, or at least to compare with what's there in React and then to build Vue. That's one way of doing it. If, let's say, you're starting off fresh, then it's anyway, there is going to be a huge learning curve. But then with ChatGPT or any of the generative AI tools, I think that journey of upskilling is reduced to an extent. That's one thing we did. And then I also started setting up the API on the backend on Laravel to start with, where we set up all the paginated response API endpoint. Also, I did set up the trending videos API endpoint, as well as the newly added videos. These are the three things I did, at least in terms of enabling some of the API endpoints. But it's not there yet because in the last episode, as you know, we were getting 403 errors. Maybe it's forbidden because I have not set up an API key yet. That's already done, but in the background, I did that because, again, those are sensitive information. So I ended up doing that before this episode, which is day 8 one. So the APIs are right now working. I can see the responses coming from the from my YouTube channel because I have enabled the API key, as well as I added the channel ID as well. So now what we are going to do today is to transform the response in a way that it can be consumed by the front end, because there is too much of information coming from, let's say, the Google API, the Google Videos API version 3, which I'm using. I don't really need all of that info to display on the front end. So that's what I'm going to do as a first thing. Maybe to when we are starting it, that we already have the response without even transforming. I'm sending it to the front end. At least that is what the response the API is generating right now. But then what we will have to do right now is to transform it in a way that we build what we just give back to the front end whatever is needed to, let's say, represent the front end. So that's what we are going to start with, and then also we are going to do something more, which is to at least list all of the trending videos on the landing page. So that is another thing I'm going to do, maybe in a day or two. Maybe I would need also day 9 because I want to limit one episode to 1 hour. So hopefully whatever I can do in 1 hour, I'll try to do. So with that background, let's get started. You can see that right now the API is listing a lot of things, but it's not really listing from my channel. So what I need to do right now is to go to my channel and get the channel ID. So let me do that. So that's my channel, and this is the channel ID. So this is what I'm going to use, and I need to pass this as one of the parameters for when I'm making the API call, which is not done yet. So this is what is getting called right now as an endpoint, if you see. So you have the API routes defined. YouTube tutorials is actually calling the fetch trending videos API endpoint. So that's what this is. Fetch trending API fetch. Sorry, it is actually calling fetch paginated tutorials, and that's what is here. And there is a caching applied for 60 seconds, because of which it is returning 60 minutes. So it is cached, and I was even testing it. So for this, now to get my videos, I need to pass one more parameter within this section, which is nothing but in this. If you see in the fetch videos service call, Google API is requesting for a query parameters, and this is where we need to pass it as an additional parameter. This is what we'll be passing. So key is already passed. It is coming from the API key, which is again coming from the let's say here. I'm already passing it as, where is that? I'm passing the API key is already passed. this dot API key. So you can see in the constructor, we are fetching it from the environment variable, which I'm not showing you yet because there is a sensitive information there. But for you, to get this, you need to just add the API key, YouTube API key as a parameter within your environment variable, and then you need to go to the YouTube console, and then you need to select, I mean, at least enable that, generate your API key, enable access to be allowed to be accessed through the YouTube v3 APIs only. That way you can restrict it. That's how I have done it, and that's what I'm using it. And that's the same reason right now I'm not getting a 403. Instead, I'm getting all of those videos which are maybe randomly picked up. I don't know how it's working, but then I'm not interested in what's coming from there. I'm more interested in what I need here. So I need to pass it as one of the additional parameters for YouTube to give me back. So for that, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do is I'm going to pass, these are the additional parameters. So within this array, I can just pass the channel ID as well right now. And that's going to be within, again, I have kept it within my environment variables. So that is going to be channel ID. I'm hoping this is what I have kept there. So now if let's say I execute it, it's again not going to give me the responses because it's still cached within this cache key. I'm hoping that because the API request is going to be the same, make it, I think it's still giving me the same thing as a response. So how I can test it for the time being is to move this outside and see whether it's fetching or not. So that's what I'm going to do. This is what I did. I moved it outside the cache and just to see whether I'm getting the response. So now, and it's giving me a different cache first, but again, it's giving me a different response. That means the channel ID is not identified. So maybe I'll have to go and make that change for it to work. Or did I miss something? So let me ask, I want to pass the channel ID in the param. How do I do that? Another way is to, again, I can even test it in this way. I don't need to, because channel ID again is available for anybody to see. So I don't think this is more of a sensitive information. So I can still live with that. So what I'm going to do is, instead of this, let me try passing the channel ID here and see. Yeah, so it is returning me right now. This is the information. So maybe I'll keep it as a parameter. I might need it for multiple API requests. So I need to then maybe keep it as a variable. So maybe I'll ask for that code, or I think it was already generated in the previous one. API keys passed like this, client is passed like this. So I will just generate the code to also pass the channel ID. Something went wrong here. Yeah, so I think it's giving me the code right now. Let's use that because I already know the channel ID. It's asking through the request query, so which is another way, but I don't really want to do that because I am not going to pass it from the front end, at least, because I'm more interested in setting up for my YouTube channel. If let's say I'm having to expose it as another query param, I don't really need that. So maybe I'll give it more context of how I want it generated. Saying update the routes, says it's actually coming through the additional parameters. So if there's no change, at least in the service, but the change which is there is only here, which like I was mentioning here, validate the channel ID is provided or use a default value. Okay, so maybe let me tell the channel ID is not going to come through the query param, but I would want it to remain on the backend itself. I'm trying to not code, at least myself, trying to see how much it can generate based on the prompts, because that's the whole idea of this whole series, that we limit ourselves from coding ourselves and see how much generation can happen. Okay, it's asking me to keep it in the environment variable, which I can do, but then maybe I'll not show you my. Okay, I think this I already must be having. I could have kept it already, so maybe just let me make this change right now, because I think this I already have, and anyway it is going to happen from this fetch videos is your service, so I think I can just pass it as one of the parameters here. Let me do that. I think this is one reason maybe. So I'm going to get rid of this and move my code to the YouTube service section, where I can just say this is one of the parameters. I think this is one parameter I have set it in my environment variable already. And then the other part is to set this one too. I think this is what channel ID. Saying max result is 10. I don't know. Let's look at that later, but this is what I need. Let's see whether this works right now, because yes, that's the thing. I think this is how it's working. I think it's returning the right ones, and maybe the responses we have to limit based on. I don't know why it gave me this 10 max results. It should be based on the number that I'm asking, maybe from the front end. Why? Let's ask max result, and why is it restricted to 10? I want it to be part of the pagination code. So if you want to have the max results parameter to be flexible as part of the pagination, allowing it to be specified in each API request, we can adjust. Okay, that's good. So page token request, page token max results is 10. Ensure max result is within an acceptable range of to avoid abuse. Example, too much numbers. So max number, min 50, max result. Example, ensure 1 to 50. Okay. Again, I think, okay, maybe I don't have an issue, because again, my responses are paginated, and I might even limit it to 24 hours for the response to change, cache it to 24 hours, which then will allow me to not have making the API request directly to the server, to the APIs then. So this is okay for me. But yeah, I think I'm gonna incorporate this code too, because it's coming through the request as, and then we are making the API call max result is 15, page token is XYZ. The request asks for up to 15 results per page, starting with the page token XYZ. But do we then respond with the page token in that case? I think how will the response look like is interesting. I think that's again driven by how the API response looks like. I guess, like in this case, there are no limit or what. I don't know how many response came back. Yeah, here I think next page token. So this is what it is talking about. This, it's restricting right now by default to page number of results per page is 10, total results 239, which is the number of videos I have including shots and everything. It's restricting every request with 10. I think that's basically passed as default, maybe if nothing's passed, because I don't think I have passed anything as such here. So that's what is currently happening. So that's, let's, I then want to transform anyway. I don't want to do this it in this way. Maybe, yeah, I can use these two parameters already, so this will still work for me. But I don't want the whole response. I want to still at least format the response. So I'm gonna incorporate this change anyways. So let's do that. Max result, I'm gonna ask as a parameter, and that is coming here. Page token. Is this happening? Okay, this is happening in your controller. Page token is already there, and then, but I don't have a max results. Max result is request or input max result. So it is again changing it to max 1 to minimum max. I don't know why that's needed. Okay, it's actually checking max of this to that, max of max result. So I think it will, if let's say we pass something bigger than this, so it's limiting it to 50, which is good. I think that's what's really is happening. So let's say in this case I pass a million as max result, so it will still find the minimum between these and pick 50, and then it will generate a max between 1 and 50. It could be 50 then, so max is 50 at that point. So it's fine. I guess that's a good check to have, so that my API does not get attacked or something. And max results is also incorporated. So let's say in this case, if you don't pass, it's by default taking 10. But if you end up passing some value, so now I think it's this is the default right now. It should still work. Go back. It's still 10. But if let's say I modify the endpoint to pass max results of 15, and I think that will also reflect. No, it's still 10. So I think the parameter is not passed. Maybe I have not passed it in the code, other place. So I need to go to the service and pass the max results. That's what the code was showing us. Here, response, fetch videos, pass max results. I think this I need to pass. Was it something I was already passing? Page token I was passing, order by date. I think these should 4 be there. Type of video. Go to my YouTube here. Max results were 10. This was the difference. I think I just need to replace this. So now it should be fixed. Yeah, so now it's 15. So you might get the next token in the response, which then you can pass, which is this. So how do we pass it? You just say as page token, and page token equals this send. I think it will give you the next set of response, which is results per page. It also gave you the previous token and the next token, so that you can maybe toggle between the previous and next, which we will anyway be using for we are going to use the pagination based on maybe anyway this is going to be implemented in the next page. So maybe look at what we can use is the trending APIs. That is what I would want to use. So maybe YouTube, how does the trending look like? So it should give me total result is 239, but how is it? Yeah, I think this is how it is, because this is one of my videos where I had the maximum number of views, which was done long back, I guess. So it's just be maybe picking up based on that. One of the trending ones, ultra fast scrolling test. Okay, I'm not sure. Is the what is the API call all about? Does it even tell me? Search list response. So what? Let's say if I go to my code API, I have this trending where it is fetching the trending videos. What it is based on the most popular. So that is how the response is coming back. So I might have to make those similar changes. But again, I'm okay with 10 here because again, I only have that much space in the in my landing page to maybe show max 10 videos or something, or even lesser than. So this, I'm okay with this. So let's focus on, let's say, fetch trending videos. So I'm gonna ask for the fetch trending videos. I want to transform the response and send back only those details which are required for showing the trending videos in the home page. Can you suggest the best response format and also generate the code to transform? This way we are restricting the API response coming from my channel, the YouTube channel, and then only giving out the details which are maybe relevant for showing for display. So video ID, title, description, thumbnail, published date. Very good. I think this is enough. And even thumbnail, we can just create what is just needed for maybe the high quality ones, which I can, or even the medium ones are enough. So it's actually doing that. See, if you see, it's only giving the medium ones URLs as a medium default size. Let's see that. I think if I'm not happy, even I can send back the high resolution ones if that is also, if it improves the quality of let's say showing in my view. But I think medium would be pretty good enough. So yeah, maybe not medium, maybe even better than that, I guess, because I know that thumbnail size is not so big whatever I'm passing. So what is it requiring me? Laravel's resource classes allow you to transform model or any arbitrary data into the desired JSON structure. Although you are not using a database model directly for YouTube videos, you can still use a resource to format the API response. First, create a resource for the video. Okay, this is the resource which is converts into array. Very good. Adding the controller method. Yeah, so this is good. So I'm gonna maybe use this. So go to my here. I'm gonna run PHP artisan make resource trending video resource. Very good. And I think I don't need to call it as trending because again, it is going to be common for everything. So maybe I can suggest I'm happy with this format of response. You can extend it for any kind of tutorial response for all the endpoints. So I'm just saying, just use that as maybe then abstract the name into something which can be then reused. Why should I call it trending? Maybe rename it to something which will make more sense. Rename the trending to something which will make sense for all scenarios. So I'm not using my brain to rename it. Instead, I'm just asking to do that. Notes on using a resource. Yeah, this is interesting. Let's read. Flexibility. Resources provide a flexible way to shape your API responses, allowing you to easily adjust the data structure as your front-end requirements evolve. Consistency. Using the same resource across multiple endpoints ensures that your API responses maintain a consistent structure, making it easier for the front end. Okay. Performance. When transforming external API responses with resources, consider the performance impact, especially if making additional transformations. Caching transfer responses, as discussed earlier, can help mitigate any performance constraints. Yeah, so we are caching. So at least this is fine for me. So I'm just asking the next one. Rename trending to video resource. Yeah, that's fine. Update video resource to format the video data appropriately. JSON. So it's a JSON resource which gets transformed. Pretty solid, because if you look at this response, there are so many things which is send back. I don't really need all of it because channel ID, I might not even need that. So title is good, important, publish date is important, maybe description is important, thumbnail at least one is important, and I think I can ask for a high resolution itself because that's 480 by 360. And then channel title, I don't need so many information, so it's good recommendation here to write, so it knows by the context that what all things I am gonna need. So very good. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Video resource, go to my code, and video resource, creating that. So it should be created, I think, within a resources section, which is video resource JSON transformation. So let's go back and then fetch that code to array, return this. Is that the right one? Function to array. Maybe let's directly JSON resource request. Is there anything called as a request? That is also there, yeah. And video ID. Let's see whether this serves it. Yeah, I think it's an array, which is fine. So we have this, and then the other part is to then embed this in the response. Paginated response, we do this collection, collect response. So wherever we are doing this, I think we were doing it somewhere in the controller. This YouTube service was fetching a response, and then this is what we were responding back with, response data, and here it is data and items, videos. So let's see if I am having this code here, and then I just need to say video.response. Let's move it somewhere here. Caching was here, it's not here, it's not here. So maybe we'll add caching later once we are confident with the responses. So this is my response. So if response has an error, then you throw this exception. If not, we transform it here. So I think it's asking to include the video response. Video resource, it's not imported. Yeah, that's the part. So with this, I think this should now return. I can get rid of this. And let's say if I run the response, I think this is more for if I do, this is fetch trending. So if I do this, wow, so it's transformed already, which is really good, right? So you already have the video ID, title, description, thumbnail. Let's say I can ask for a thumbnail which is of higher resolution. So instead of medium, I might call it as high. Even that is responded, and this is the thumbnail, publish date, description. So I think with this I should be able to use the response. It's giving me 10. So trending as such, API is available right now, but again I'm going to do one more thing. I don't think I have a versioning done. This is my current API. I want to add one more versioning so that you can also understand whether this is something you can. I do not have versioning in place for API. How to enable that, and how do I manage versions for changes? Introducing versioning to your API is a best practice. It allows you to evolve your API over time without breaking backward compatibility. So if you are wondering what versioning is all about, this is again to give backward compatibility. So ideally you structure your code in a way that you can support different versions. Maybe this one version you would have delivered with one kind of code, and then there are some breaking changes. You should not break your customer code. That's one thing. So you should then create another version and then release, just like how YouTube is having their own versions, version 1, version 2, version 3 for their APIs. Similar is the case here. So you still keep it in a different folder where you at least this is one way of doing it. You have it the controllers in one version. To what level you need the version, again it can be based on the controllers, but again in the code level also you can version adjust controllers for each version, use middleware for common functionality. So basically it is to manage backward compatibility. And even on the code implementation, I think even here this is more the controller code. So we can still ask like we still have controllers, we have the services. So what about services? Should that be also versioned? Wow. Is that a best practice to only keep the version of controller in a different folder? So I guess this will also make sense, because again you cannot really keep a version of your database. Only the functionality will only change. Versioning changes in Laravel applications similar to versioning controllers. Depends on the specific changes across version and the architecture of your application. Here are some guidelines and consideration to help you decide the best approach. When you version services, significant business logic changes. If the new version of your API involves substantial changes in your business logic or data processing that cannot be easily parameterized, versioning your services may be necessary. Incompatible API changes. When changes to external APIs or internal services introduce incompatibilities with existing functionality, creating version services might be required to maintain different behaviors across API. Okay. Best practices for versioning: shared logic. If the difference between the versions are minor, try to keep a single service and handle version controls internally within the service methods. This reduces code duplication and simplifies maintenance. Service interface. Define a common interface of yours for your services and implement version specific services that adhere to the interface. So dependency injection, using Laravel's dependency injection to bind the appropriate service version to your controllers. You can do that conditionally. So that means it's an open close principle also applied here, where let's say your date, if there is a huge change in the way the services are going to be, it's just better than to maybe abstract your service and then pass that dependency to your controller or something, so that the changes are only reflected in the through the controller than somewhere else. Example structure, but I don't think this is going to happen in my case, but this is more for a reference. So YouTube service interface, so it's abstracted through interface, so that there are no major breaking changes. Still the dependency injection still works. This is more how you apply open close principles, so that you don't have too much validations or conditional checks in your code. So define a service interface, very good approach. And building services in a service provider, I think we can implement in all of these. Should I go with an API versioning? I think so. So I just need to prefix version 1, then point it to the right one. So I'm going to do this just for adding a little more interest to this tutorial. So API version 1 controllers. So what do we have right now? HTTP controllers, API. Maybe I'll pass. Will it break anything for me? I think it should ask me to refactor them, but I can add. Do I not have an API? These controllers are really for API, so it does not harm if I, let's say, API, and then also have a version 1 folder, and then move. I think I can, my base controller can remain within API because base is not going to change, but this one can then move to the version 1 folder. Move. I don't know what all broke. Let's see, let me try running. Yeah, it's broken. So the path would have broken right now, and where can I see the path? I think it will be in your, it will be in the API PHP controllers. Okay, this is also interesting, right? Because if I'm going to support through routes, I think one of them is controllers API. I think the name, the versioning is not changing. So why is it broken? Wait, let's check, because I think I have not changed the namespace. So it should not break. At least the namespace is the same. So I should be able to still access YouTube controller like this. But in turn, what has changed? Let's see, what is the error? Maybe it's better to just paste it in browser to really see it better. Composer provides a convenient automatically generates. So auto load, it's saying after I moved, so I think it's not as simple as just moving things around. So maybe let's ask, I moved the controller to this folder controller version API version 1, and this error occurred. When you move controllers into a new namespace in Laravel, the error route, update your routes in routes web.php. That's a basic miss. But I think this is not the case because my namespaces are not changing. right? So why should this be a reason? And I think what I can do is clear cache, auto reload. This is what I should be really doing, I think, because this is not something which should have happened. This still remains the same. I don't think this is one reason. Maybe I can check that after moving in your route definition. If I go back, if I go to my API routes, this is not the case according to me. So it's saying already that it does not see this. So is that because I did not remove the cache or something? Yeah, that's not really the case. If I revert it back, and then let's do the other things which was asked, which is clear the cache, clear the routes, and clear configs, then do a composer dump auto load. Command updates the class map, ensuring all the new class locations are currently recognized. Maybe auto load files. So I don't know, let's see. Not yet. So it's still not able to find the files. $51. Let's see if there is. It does not. Maybe it because I changed the structure. Maybe it's broken. Maybe I can move the API part out. I don't think this folder could be one reason. So one thing I can do is move these two within controllers and delete the API folder as such. Maybe that could be one reason, because there is a basic structure in place in Laravel. No. Even version 1, it's not identifying. What are the other suggestions? Or should I update the namespace itself? Should I update the namespace? Web.php, what is that? Let's check that too. There is nothing. This is what I'm using for APIs. And only other thing which maybe I can try is to change the namespace, which is, okay, in this case it is version 1. Controller still remains here, so I think even controller is in controllers folder, and that too has to be then. But again, this cannot be version 1. I think I'll have to import it within controller, has to be then imported. And how do I do that? I do it using use app http controllers, then say controller. No, I think it's not solving. So I still have the issue. Let's ask. namespace declaration. That is fine. Oh yeah, I think I should then update my route, which is what is broken right now. YouTube controller should be API. No, I am having it within version 1 folder. Yeah. Oh, that worked. So then it was more of an issue with changing the whole structure maybe. So version 1 is working right now. So this is now coming through version 1. Again, I think I still need it as a route. So I think I need to group it within a version 1, which is what we need to do here. Where is that code? Yeah, so prefix, route.prefix, move everything to that. So if I have route.prefix, then all the routes go inside this, which are all version 1 endpoints, let's say. So this is okay. So I think even with this change, we also need to make a change to API version 1. So versioning is also taken care right now. So this is now API is versioned, YouTube trending. I got all the responses. So what else is there? I think with this, I guess we can move to the front end, because I have the trending responses coming already from the API. I can directly fetch that in my front end and start using it. So this is my API. So I guess the next step is to move to the front end. So let's get started with that.